This one comes to us from FoxNews.com. Apparently, the FBI director, Christopher Wray, was on 60 Minutes, and he made some comments that people are talking about. And I just want to get your take on what this FBI director said. Now, he addressed the skyrocketing rate of murders against police officers, saying the surge is far outpacing general violent crime. I'll say one thing about shooting crimes and so forth, with handguns. Man, when I look for these stories, there is a shooting story every 2 to 4 stories. Just shooting, stabbing, shooting. It's crazy, man. People have lost their freaking minds. Now, Wray made the comments during the 60 Minutes interview, wearing the badge shouldn't make you a target. Well, ever since George Floyd incident, the us versus them with law enforcement has been just crazy. I mean, we're still seeing some of the, what's the word I'm looking for? For lack of a better word, overflow from 2020 with people that are just not happy with law enforcement. We're seeing some of that still, still some of the effects of that.
In 2021, there was a 59% increase in the murders of police officers, 73 officers killed.
Violence against law enforcement in this country is one of the biggest phenomenons that I think doesn't get enough attention. Last year, officers were being killed at a rate of almost 1 every 5 days.
The National Fraternal Order of Police announced earlier in April that the shootings of police officers had spiked 43% so far in 2022. The police union said 101 police officers had been shot in 2022 alone as of April 1st. But remember, I read a story the other day where 250 people have been killed by police officers so far this year. So, yeah, there's something going on here between the two. Now, National FOP President Patrick Yose said in a statement, "We are in the midst of a real crisis. The violence directed at law enforcement officers is unlike anything I've seen in my 36 years of law enforcement. Last year was one of the most dangerous years for law enforcement, with more officers shot in the line of duty since the National Fraternal Order of Police began recording this data."
But why are more officers being killed right now?
Some of it is tied to the violent crime problem as a whole. But one of the phenomena that we saw in last year is that an alarming percentage of the 73 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty last year were killed through things like being ambushed or shot while out on patrol.
A lot of that is coming from the summer of 2020. A lot of the people that were protesting in 2020, they're still out there and they're still pissed off. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I condone it. I don't advocate for it. But I'm just stating a fact that I think that's what we're seeing. Now, Wray also addressed a more general surge in violent crime, which has impacted most cities across the country. FBI Director Christopher Wray said we're seeing more and more juveniles committing violent crime, and that's certainly an issue. We're seeing a certain amount of gun trafficking, interstate gun trafficking. That's part of it. And we're seeing an alarming frequency of some of the worst getting back out on the streets. That's a good point to bring up too, is these governors, like Governor Newsom, that have these felon release programs where they're like, this felon's been pretty good in jail. He's done good. He says thank you and yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Let's let him back out on the street. And boom, the felon's committed a crime within a week. And possibly a violent crime. So yeah, a lot of these release programs, they're releasing these violent felons back out to do what? Commit felonies.